welcome to Casualty and Holby Soap Secrets. Yes, it's a very special episode. We have Victoria Wilson here, and we are talking about the two hospital dramas. So, shall we kick off with Holby, Victoria?
Yes.
Hit me with it. What's going on?
Right. Lots, again, this week. They really are cramming a lot into these shorter episodes, and there's all kinds of things going on. Some of the stories intertwine sort of indirectly as well, so it's great. So anyway, we're going to kick off with everything that's going on surrounding Fletch, Evie and Rich. So it's been a few weeks now, obviously, since Holby's very shifty director of funding, Jenny Sinclair, first pushed, I suppose, Evie into the arms of her wealthy and not remotely seedy friend Rich. This week it seems sort of Evie's having major doubts about her relationship, and she wants to stop going to Jenny's all-night parties, where we get the impression all kinds of stuff is going on, the kind of stuff they can show us anyway. So obviously we know Fletch doesn't know a thing about any of this, Evie's dad. And it seems Evie's on the cusp of telling her everything when Fletch spots Rich talking rather intimately with his daughter outside the hospital. Anyway, thinking Rich is a perv who's preying on young girls, which, to be fair, he is. Fletch immediately sees red, punches Rich, who inadvertently hits his head and ends up in a critical condition. I suppose it's a good job they were actually outside the hospital, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it always helps. So Jenny's convinced that Fletch, who obviously is her other half, she's certain he'll report cradle snatcher Rich to police, and that obviously her illicit parties would be exposed. But Jenny can't have that. So when Rich sort of then takes a turn for the worse, falls into a coma, and Jenny sort of gets really worried and warns Evie that if Rich dies, her dad could be charged with manslaughter, and she puts the frighteners on Evie, saying
basically blackmailing her.
Well, yeah, she says, oh, you know, the hospital CCTV would have captured this whole thing. Given, you know, she has quite some power at Holby though, and she makes it clear to Evie that, you know, I can easily make the CCTV footage disappear. Like you say, she sort of blackmails her. She says she can make the footage disappear on one condition, that Evie has to keep stum about the parties and agree to attend every single one from now on, taking her friend Mia, which obviously is Donna's daughter, so she's getting involved, taking her with her. So
this is the most disgusting ring.
Yeah, she's caught between a rock and a hard place, really, because she obviously wants to protect her dad. She doesn't want to see her dad go to prison. He's the only parent she's got. So Evie agrees, and it almost looks like Fletch at least has been able to avoid trouble, but it doesn't look like Evie's managed to avoid trouble. So then
I assume there's CCTV footage of all this.
Yeah, well, that's what she said. She the whole thing's been captured, and that she can hide it.
She can hide it. Yeah. Okay, so it is actually there. I've had this vision of it being there, but it wasn't really working. Or
No. Well, there's just this scene where she's sort of waving what looks like some sort of computer chip or dongle or something, saying, you know, the CCTV's on here, but, you know, I can get rid of this if you just do things for me. So it looks like, you know, there's a scene at the end where kind of Evie and Jenny and Fletch are kind of all lovey-dovey, and Evie she just looks like someone who wants the ground to swallow her up. She's like, you know, they seem closer than ever, and it's like, I need to now get away from this woman.
It's getting darker and darker, isn't it? You know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
The lies to get out of the other lie. You know, this is an increased web of them. Yeah,
well, you're sort of left wondering how long before sort of someone gets either found out or worse, obviously seriously hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So the storyline's sort of been quite uncomfortable viewing at times, but Holby is handling it really well.
They are, and Jack's trial is also up in the air, isn't it, this week?
Yeah. Nothing is ever straightforward. The clock is ticking, and time is against Jack and Eli as they're desperately trying to secure suitable patients to sort of forge ahead with this pioneering stent trial. Jack's been banking on Carol Copeland, Dom's mum, who was recently diagnosed with dementia, so it's sort of being able to undergo this sort of revolutionary yet incredibly risky procedure to make Carol feel better about what's to come. Jack tells her about a guy in Arizona who's also on the trial, and Carol affectionately names him the Cowboy, and it's all quite sweet. She sort of feels like, oh well, you know, he's doing it. This is a great thing. I'm doing a great thing. You know, help me and obviously help future patients. However, the news sort of later comes that the Cowboy has died. So it's not the news we want, and it makes Dom get cold feet. Basically, he doesn't want his mum used as a quote guinea pig, and he refuses to sign the consent forms for Carol, who isn't obviously totally competent to sign them himself.
Oh wow!
So he refuses to sign them for her to take part in the trial, and Carol's like, you know, I don't know what to do. Dom's doing what he thinks is best as a son and a medic, obviously, but you know, Jack takes it on the chin. She's like, well, okay, you know, I can't force them. But as I say, she's sort of fully aware that time is running out, so she's now relying on Eli and Chloe to come up with a suitable match. And it looks like the perfect candidate's been found, but there is a snag. Of course there's a snag. It's Holby. It's someone from Chloe's past. And she sees their notes and begs Eli not to choose them for the process. After he sort of hears her out, and he agrees to her request. He's like, you know, if you don't want them to come, we will try and find someone else. But this is a matter of life and death, really, following recent revelations. And obviously Hanson knows how crucial it is for Jack in particular to find a patient and for this trial to be a success. So will he, is sort of left on will he sort of pull rank and overrule Eli's decision? He is CEO after all. And the bigger question is just, who is this mystery patient? You will find out. But I'm not going to tell you today.
I know you're not. It's very frustrating. You do this for me. You dangle the carrot.
Sorry, you have to watch. It'll be worth the wait.
Anything more? I mean, as if that isn't enough.
Yeah, there's another story on AAU, which is now fully open again after Jack's little episode last week. So we've got a new girl, Mel, new nurse on AAU, and she's only been there for a week, but we've decided after watching this latest episode that we really don't like her that much at all. I said I wouldn't. I'm setting my stall out. She's not very nice. Mainly because she sort of continues to be a proper mean girl towards lovely Kylie. Now, I've spoken before about how kind-hearted and warm and loving Kylie is. You know, she's the nurse who always puts other people's needs before her own. We recently saw her go that extra mile for terminally ill patient Delaware. Such a lovely storyline. And she's going all out once again to give another patient first-class care, namely this one guy who comes in who can't get to his prom. And so she makes all the necessary arrangements to bring the prom and his date to the hospital. However, this is Holby, so things don't go according to plan. Not with Mel around, anyway. Mel basically stumbles on Kylie's decked-out staff room. She's decked it out in all balloons and streamers and party poppers. It's really lovely. But then she tells everyone how she organised it all and takes all the credit. Now, you might think that Kylie would just keep quiet and sort of let her frenemy, as it were, have her 5 minutes of fame. But no, in a very rare moment, Kylie stands up for herself. Woohoo!
Yay! She's found the backbone.
Yes, it is an epic showdown between the two of them on the ward in front of everyone. But we're pretty confident now that this means war.
Okay. God, there's so much going on in Holby. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just a kind of...
I'm liking that story. It's really dark with the Jenny.
Yeah, that I'm uncomfortable
Evie
about
stuff.
that.
So it's really dark with that, and then you've got the intensity and Jack being her usual brilliant self with all the Darwin stuff, and then this other kind of slightly lighter story, although who knows where it can go. Usually when it ends up being a bit single white female, this sort of storyline. So For those who don't know, classic film of the 80s, watch it, it's brilliant. But then we've got that as well. So, yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
Well, thank you very much. That is Holby in a nutshell. Keep watching. So let's talk about Casualty. Claire Ruck is joining us. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Hannah.
Okay. Is Casualty quite as explosive, got quite as much going on as Holby this week?
It's got so much going on, but I wanted to talk about last week's episode first of all, because that was the second of the two-parter, and I couldn't give it away, but it was an absolute tearjerker. I said you needed a goldfish bowl, perhaps you needed a vat.
Yeah.
Both Phoenicia and Lev didn't survive the train crash.
I just can't believe it. I can't believe that storyline. Can you? I did not see that coming.
I didn't really. So Lev was the ultimate hero. The ultimate hero. He was the other side of the barrier to the level crossing. So he wasn't involved in the crash at all because he was sitting waiting for the barrier to raise. But he's a trained paramedic, and we know he just jumps in and tries to save people. So he did what he was trained to do as a hero paramedic. He jumped in to try and save both Phoenicia and Matthew. And wanted to try and save both of those. And it was really shocking. When I talked about the shiver going down my spine, it was so graphic. The train hit his head, glanced his head, and I felt physically sick, Hannah. Physically sick.
I mean, you did give me a warning. You said I needed wine, and you were absolutely right. I mean, it was just absolutely horrendous. And I suppose you're right. Now, how can anyone survive that? But, you know, it is a soap, so you kind of, you almost expect been known for people to come back from the dead, let's be honest.
Yes.
So I was kind of hopeful because I don't know whether that storyline had really run its course or not, but obviously writers thought they had.
Yes. And you know, Phoenicia died. She had something sticking in her as well. It was gruesome. It was blood everywhere. It really was. And then the ending was so nice, Hannah. They had Phoenicia and Ethan practicing their first wedding dance. You know, men are quite nervous, I think, aren't they, when they have to do that first dance after they've got married. They might, you know, not everyone's been on Strictly Come Dancing or they're John Travolta, are they? They're just normal men who think, I've got to dance. And Ethan was I've got to dance in front of all these people, and they kept practicing, and he pitched up in the paramedics medic bay, and he got, you know, a tape recorder out and played the song, and Lev was there with Jan, and they watched them. I was in tears.
Yeah, it was a real tearjerker. It really, really was. But it's kind of weird because they leave it there and they have almost like a break, don't they? So when you come back this week, it's a new series, and we're all left still in a desperate state.
Yes, completely desperate state. We're really, really, really shocked. So when we come back this week, a month has gone. So we've had in Casualty terms, a month has passed. Now I'm going to ask you a big question here, Hannah. It's a big special birthday for Casualty. How old is Casualty, do you think?
Well, I think it started after I was born. So I think it's got to be 30 odd years old.
It's its 35th birthday.
30. Well, not too bad then. Not that far out.
It's its 35th birthday. It started in September 1986. 1986. Wow. I think Margaret Thatcher was still in power in 86. Is
it like the longest running soap? No, it can't be actually, can it? Because
no, Coronation Street's the last.
Corrie, we've had all those. Of course it is, yeah.
But 35 years is not bad going, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. Absolutely not.
So it's a big. So I think there's a big cause for celebration.
It's the longest. I've just looked. It's the longest running primetime medical drama.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, and it's done well to survive, really, through everything.
It's relatively niche because if you don't like blood and gore, you won't be watching it.
Yes, no. And of course, Charlie Fairhead, played by Derek Thompson, he is the only remaining original cast member. So,
yeah, of course.
So Charlie was in the very first episode, and he appears also in this episode, which is it's a special one. It's also special length, so it's about an hour and 15 minutes. So that's a bit longer than it normally is. So yes, so it's a special episode. Now it's got Ethan. It surrounds Ethan. So poor Ethan, we know, hasn't been coping with Phoenicia's death at all, and the guys in ED have been keeping an eye on him. And Charlie pops around to his house, making sure that him and little Bodhi are okay. And he finds Ethan hasn't been looking after himself. He's got a fever. He's a bit delirious. So he's really worried about him. And he brings him in to the ED department where they decide he's a bit dehydrated. Somebody takes care of Bodhi. They're really, they're pulling together as a family, the emergency department. It's lovely to see, Hannah, that.
Yeah, really nice. It would be remiss of them just to sort of start a new series and sort of forget this happened. I think you've got to see the fallout of this major incident.
Yeah. So there's Ethan, and he's a bit delirious with this fever, and we see his dead brother Cal, who was actually murdered, sitting in the chair talking to him. And then we go back 5 years to an incident in his life in 2016. So we have special appearances from Richard Windsor, who plays Ethan's murdered brother Cal, who was actually alive in 2016, along with Tony Marshall, who was the receptionist Noel, who died of COVID in January. He's back. And we also have Charles Dale as former care assistant Big Mac. So we've got 3 returning characters, and we see this incident in 2016. This is really important because in the present, we have a new doctor joins, and we have a new paramedic. Now the paramedic is this lovely chap called Teddy, who is Jan's nephew, and it's it must be really difficult for him because Phoenicia was so well liked. It's going to be really, really difficult for him to join, because he's kind of replacing a person that has died, and that's virtually impossible, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't, and I don't know if you can't ever get over something like that. It will become part of you and become part of life's experiences. But there's the baby, there's constant reminders. It's just awful.
Yeah. So this new Dr. Stevie is a friend of Faith's, and now Faith is kind of she's having to cope with Lev's death. They had split up, but he was still the father of her children. She had been married to him for a considerable amount of time. And this Stevie, we're not quite sure about her. She seems very chirpy, but a bit manipulative. And then when we go back into 2016, we see Ethan has made a mistake, and we see in this episode in 2016, and it has consequences for the future. So I think Ethan going forward into this new series is really, really going to be front and centre, and I don't think...
Yeah, but with a really rocky road. It's not like, it's not going to be an easy path, is it?
No.
It's all going on, isn't it?
It is, though,
Casualty is absolutely banging at the moment, absolutely brilliant. Right, well, that's it for our hospital dramas this week, but we will be back next week with lots more. But that I can absolutely promise you.